We start with news from Germany, and Alexei Navalny is no longer in an induced coma. The Russian opposition leader was flown to Germany after falling ill on a flight from Siberia to Moscow last month. Last week, the German government said it was certain Navalny had been poisoned using the nerve agent Novichok. Joining me now from Berlin, our correspondent Nick Spicer. Nick, what more can you tell us about Alexei Navalny's state of health?
We know that he is now breathing on his own, and he's responding to vocal stimuli. That doesn't mean he is speaking. And the doctors at the Charité hospital where he's been treated aren't really saying a lot more, except, there's going to be a long road ahead. And I think what we can do, however, is look at his age, which is he's 43. We can look at the precedent. And there aren't a lot, but there was Sergei Skripal, you'll recall, who was the Russian spy who went over to the other side and was poisoned in the UK 2 years ago. Took him 2 months to recover. And we also know the procedure to deal with somebody who's been poisoned with Novichok, which is described as one of the most powerful chemical weapons known to man. A 30th of a raindrop can kill you, and that involves using atropine to counteract the effects of what is, it's called a cholinesterase inhibitor. It affects your lungs, it affects your heart, makes it impossible to breathe, and of course the intent is to kill you. So it's not really clear how long this path going forward will be, nor is it clear if he'll be able to return to his opposition activities in Russia, which were very arduous physically, involving a lot of travel, and including being jailed quite frequently. But it is a measure of good news today for Alexei Navalny.
And Nick, this case has really raised tensions between Berlin and Moscow, hasn't it?
It has, absolutely. I mean, at the beginning, I think the feeling was, Germany didn't want to enter into conflict with Russia. Alexei Navalny was flown out by a private NGO aboard a private jet. However, when it became clear that he'd been poisoned with Novichok, it was clear, I think, to many of the politicians here that the Russian government had to be involved. That was the widespread perception. And Angela Merkel held an unprecedented, really, news conference. I hadn't quite seen her in that frame of mind. It was short, and she said a crime had been committed, a political assassination, basically had attempted to take Navalny's life, and that the world expected answers from Russia. And she didn't take questions. And then in the days since, the initial reaction from the Kremlin was that is white noise. We need more cooperation from the Germans to make this happen. However, there isn't any news of an official investigation, and there hasn't been in 5 poisoning cases involving opposition figures in the past 6 years. Today, the reaction to this latest German news from the Kremlin is, let me just quote it, it's unacceptable and absurd. What has happened just yesterday was the foreign minister, Heiko Maas, said that they would be considering possible sanctions. They expected answers in the next couple of days. They would consult with NATO allies, with the European Union, as well as informing the Organization for the Prevention of Chemical Weapons. The big question here is, there's a lot of business between Russia and Germany. There's also a giant pipeline project with major geostrategic importance. It's called the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. It directly links Russia to Germany. It means that Ukraine is no longer the country through which European gas goes. So it lessens the importance of Ukraine. The United States has threatened sanctions against German companies, and Merkel has said at the beginning of this, well, it's uncoupled. Navalny is one thing, and the pipeline is another thing. And now Heiko Maas, the foreign minister, is saying, well, we're actually going to be thinking about suspending that project, $14 billion, 1,200 kilometers of pipeline. That is on the table now. Germans are asking whether or not they want to proceed to work with that critical project, very important to the Kremlin in the future, given what has happened to the leading Kremlin critic, who is in a hospital here, still in Berlin. So he may be emerging from life support, but that pipeline project looks like it is going into life support.
All right, thank you very much for that update, Nick.